Hi, I'm Adrian. Welcome to my channel. And in a recent video, I made a passing remark about something that went in the line of it doesn't matter how fast you are, but how much time you stopped during a brevet ride. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to complete a brevet ride with good time management, no matter how slow you are. So to get a rough idea of what kind of numbers we are looking at, let's have a look at the timings of the different brevet rides, okay? So let's start with 200 kilometers. The cutoff time for 200 kilometers is 13.5 hours. Now, assuming you just continuously ride for 200 kilometers and finish at exactly 13.5 hours, you would have ridden at an average speed of about 14.8 kilometers an hour. Now, if you look at 300 kilometers, that's 20 hours cut-off time, you'll be riding at 15 kilometers an hour. So looking at 400, 14.8 kilometers an hour, and 600 kilometers, that's 15 kilometers an hour. Now things get a little bit more lenient further than that. So for example, 1000 kilometers, the cutoff time is 75 hours, which comes up to about 13.3 kilometers an hour. And that's similar to 1200 kilometers if you use the 90-hour cutoff time. So what does this tell us? Well, the cutoff time is very generous. You can be riding very slow, and I mean, even 15 kilometers an hour on a road bike is kind of slow, okay? But obviously these numbers are quite unrealistic, impossible even, because they assume you're just riding the whole time. Obviously you can't. You have to stop for various reasons. You need to stop to rest. You need to stop for food and water. You need to stop for the longer rides. You need to stop for sleep, and obviously you need to stop to stamp your brevet cards at the various checkpoints. Also, you need to consider time for any sort of emergency, like a mechanical issue with your bike, a puncture. However, these kind of times paint a rather lenient and, well, quite a big buffer of time that you can obtain if you are riding faster. And by fast, I don't really mean like 30 kilometers an hour, you know, fast-paced line kind of thing. Even, okay, let's use 20 kilometers an hour as our baseline, because 20 is an easy number to work with, and I think for most riders who are fit enough to ride an audax, I think 20 is already pretty slow, okay? So let's look at this again. Assuming you ride 20 kilometers an hour for a 200 kilometer brevet, you complete 200 kilometers in 10 hours, okay? So 10 hours, if you take that off the cut-off time, you actually have an extra buffer of 3.5 hours. That's a lot, okay? And let's extend this further. 300 kilometers, riding at 20 kilometers an hour, you complete in 15 hours. So 5 hours of buffer time. 400 kilometers, you have 7 hours. 600 kilometers, you have 10 hours. It gets even more. 1000 kilometers, 25 hours of buffer. 1200 kilometers at a standard 90-hour cutoff time, 30 hours of buffer. That's a whole lot of stop time. So what can go wrong? So in some circles on the internet, we call this kind of buffer something like time in the bank, okay? So when you stop to do something, like you stop to rest or you stop at a restaurant for a meal, you are taking out time from the bank. And then if you're riding faster than your expected or projected time, you are putting back time into the bank. Now, the exact amount of time in the bank is not really that important, because the number may vary depending on how fast you're actually riding and what kind of measurement or benchmark you're actually using for yourself. Like for in this video, for example, I'm using 20 kilometers an hour as a benchmark. But if you were a slower rider, you may be using 18 kilometers an hour. If you're a stronger rider, you may be using 25 kilometers an hour. But regardless, the concept is you have time in the bank. Every time you stop and do something, you are borrowing, or rather you are withdrawing time in the bank. And this amount of time is limited. So the amount of time isn't really the important factor here. What's important is how do you minimize or how do you optimize the withdrawal of this time, right? You want to try not to withdraw too much and keep as much as possible so that you can use it for more important things. Now, in order to do that, you can ask yourself two questions whenever you are sitting down, stopped, not on your bike, and in let's say in a lull of activity, like you're just sitting down or you're just resting. So the first question is, should I get going? Now, you may find yourself stopped because maybe you need a rest, okay? Riding 600 kilometers is very tiring. You're more often than not going to need to stop and rest a couple of times. So let's say, consider this scenario. You see a petrol station, you turn in, you decide, okay, I'm gonna rest here for 10 minutes. Or maybe you've already set some kind of formula in your mind. Like, okay, every 50 kilometers of riding, I'm gonna stop and rest for 15 minutes. Now, the problem with this kind of formulas is that the time doesn't really consider the amount of effort or the actual state of your body. Maybe you don't really need 15 minutes. Maybe you only needed 5 minutes. So the concept of asking yourself this question, should I get going, is to constantly evaluate yourself. You know, if you stop for 5 minutes, maybe you already feel a lot better. You don't need to continue resting for another 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe you can just get going there. And in that sense, you've already saved yourself 5 or maybe 10 minutes, right? So, with this, we move on to the second question. Should I be doing something? Now, imagine this scenario. You stopped at the restaurant. You've sat at the table, the waiters come and you've made your order and you're just sitting around waiting for your food. What can you be doing? You know, if you're just sitting there and doing nothing, that's wasted time. You should find something to fill in that kind of what I call dead time, okay? So maybe it's like late morning and the sun is coming up. You can apply sunblock while waiting for your food. Maybe you need to go to the toilet to wash up or whatever. Maybe you need to get water and refill your water bottles. Or maybe it's evening, you're tired, you want to close your eyes and like rest for 5 or 10 minutes while waiting for your food or whatever. That's totally valid as well. But the important thing is you are doing something instead of just sitting around doing nothing or just sitting around checking your Facebook and WhatsApp or whatever, which contributes nothing to your ride. And you know, if you've already done those things during your dead time, then you save the time needing to do those things again when you're getting ready to get on your bike and ride, you know? So in those two examples, in those two questions that you ask yourself, you're only saving like what, 5-10 minutes, and you think that's nothing, right? 5 to 10 minutes. But remember, each stop you make, that's already 5 or 10 minutes, maybe even 15 in some circumstances. And the longer the brevet, the more times you're gonna stop. And all these small little bits, all these small little increments of save time can add up, you know? So maybe all that is like 20 to 30 minutes of save time in a 200 kilometer ride. But once you go to 600 kilometers, you may be saving yourself 1 hour or more. And especially in the longer rides, 600 kilometers and more, all this save time actually translates into more time to sleep. And sleep time is one of the most important times of all. So having said all that, the general gist of it is not to say like minimize your stop time at all costs. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. If you need to stop, you need to stop. What I'm trying to say is, when you're stopped, make sure that all that stop time counts, okay? Don't waste any of that time doing nothing important. Even if it's something like just closing your eyes to rest for 10 minutes, that's a whole lot better than using those 10 minutes to just check your Facebook or just sit around chatting around and doing nothing. So if you find yourself like consistently, or not really consistently, more like if you are often the kind of person who misses a cut-off time, or maybe not even the whole ride, but you miss a cut-off time at checkpoints every so often, and you think to yourself, oh man, if I were just a bit faster, or maybe if I train myself to be faster, then I might be able to do it next time. Well, stop right there. Just think for a moment. Sometimes it's not your speed, okay? Maybe your speed might just be fine. Examine your ride. I mean, you've probably recorded it down in Strava or ride with GPS or even just Garmin or wherever. You can examine your time. You can see how much time you stopped, where you stopped, and just give it some thought. Could I have like stopped a little less over here, or should I have stopped here? You know, ask yourself all these basic questions, and you might actually find some insight in those answers you get. And from there, you know, you might start optimizing your time more. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have just stopped there for no reason. I could have gone another 10 kilometers, and it would have been better to stop there because I was going to stop there anyway. You know, a bunch of questions that you can ask yourself, and look for ways to cut down on all that dead time, and you may surprise yourself in the next brevet. So give it a try. You never know what you got until you tried it. Man, that was corny, wasn't it? Anyway, that's all I have to say for this video. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe maybe, it helps the channel grow. And I shall see you in the next video. Bye!